just stepped into the Midlife Revolution Unleashed, your space to ignite possibility, redefine purpose, and embrace the power that comes with age and experience. Co-hosted by yours truly, Coach Wayne.
And I'm Coach Stacy M. Lewis. We are two seasoned coaches focused on the midlife community of color. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement. In a world that sometimes forgets the power and the wisdom that comes with age, we are here to ignite a revolution and rewrite the narrative of this incredible journey.
So, whether you're navigating your career, growing your business, rediscovering passions, or challenging the status quo, this is your space. So, buckle up. Let's dive into the Midlife Revolution Unleashed. Hey. Today, we're talking about a topic that everyone likes to chatter about and think about. Today, we're talking about money. Show me the money, Stacy.
The engaging question of the day is, what stories were you told about money growing up? And are they still running the show? That is the question of the day. Welcome to the Midlife Revolution Unleashed. I am your co-host, Stacy M. Lewis, where I have the honor of serving with this fine gentleman here as your host of the Midlife Revolution Unleashed. I am a nonprofit executive, a lover of God and his people, and a midlife women's coach. And I am more than joyful to be sitting in the seat talking about money, meaning, and motivation, how to redefine wealth at midlife. Sir Wayne, how are you today?
Madame Stacy, I'm well, thank you. It's one of my high points of my week, sitting down and sharing the platform with you, Stacy, as we gel and we're able to share with our audience some of the ideas and concepts around improving midlife, for both men and women of color. And so today, again, I'm Coach Wayne Dawson, and I work with men through midlife so that their second half can be their best half. Stacy, today, you just asked a question. How are we running in terms of the programs we have around money? So we're looking at the psychological, the spiritual, and our personal convictions and beliefs around money.
Yeah, I mean, I think about that question, and I always immediately go to the fact that growing up, one of my mother's mantras, so to speak, was, you're going to always have debt. So, kind of buy what you need and some of what you want. And that mindset of you'll always have debt was something that I took into young adulthood. Oh, that was not good, Wayne. That was not good. That is not the mindset that you want in young adulthood. And so certainly entering into and living in the midlife experience, I had to shift that mindset and then do the work to shift that mindset and the experience of my finances. So how about you, Wayne?
Yeah, I remember hearing, maybe not at home, but generally speaking, people saying rich people are evil and chasing money. Yeah, chasing money was about greed. Of course, we all know money, the roots of all evil. That's so misused, misquoted. And that's it's implanted early. And so you walk around thinking that if you desire money, you must be a bad guy or girl.
Yeah, it's interesting how some of those kind of scriptural foundations, right, that some of us grew up on, things like cleanliness is next to godliness, right? I still haven't found that scripture, but at the same time, the scripture is very clear on how we should think of the resource of money and its place in our life and in our practice, right? It's not the money that is the root of all evil. It is, like you said, it's often misquoted. It's the love of money that is the root of all evil. And so that's kind of a shift on a mindset, a money mindset, right? Like that money being the root of all evil. No, 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 no. The love of money is the root of all evil.
Yeah, I had been involved in a mastermind group, and one of the things we talked about was truly what money means. And it was broken down that at the end of the day, money is an exchange and it's really energy. So you exchange your time, you exchange your knowledge, you exchange uh, your work or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's an exchange of these resources that we call energy of some form in return for that money. If that makes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yes. I mean, we talked about in the green room, as you would say, that that's why it's called currency, right?
Yes.
Because it moves, it flows through different entities, including our pockets or our bank accounts or our business accounts. It does indeed flow. And I love the way you talked about that exchange, because it is the exchange for our value, right? Because of the value that we are bringing to something or the value that we are receiving from something, that provides the platform for the exchange.
Yeah. Stacy, you hit on some real powerful stuff there. We are talking about how people from old have equated money, and you talked about currency. A river,
Mm-hmm.
for example,
Mm-hmm.
has a current, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it flows. Where does it flow? Between banks,
Mm-hmm.
right? It can overflow as money.
Mm.
And if it doesn't flow, we have a drought or a recession, right?
Right, right,
Of
right.
that money. And so when we understand the power of the flow of money, which is to say, you don't simply just keep it in the bank, it doesn't do good there. For it to have the energy and the value that we place on it, because intrinsically, money doesn't have value. It's, formerly, money was made from paper, from trees, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and so if you took a dollar and a US dollar in Jamaica and tipped somebody who at the airport was a porter, they
Mm-hmm.
almost want to give it back to you because for them, it really has very little value with the devaluation of the
Mm.
Jamaican dollar.
Mm-hmm.
But here, you could tip somebody and a dollar is worth something. You know what I mean? So it's what we put on the money, the
Yes.
value, the intent
Yes.
that really honors its count.
No, that's good. That's good. And it's not the give and get of the money, right? It is the how we attract that value,
Yes.
how we position ourselves as valuable. We often talk about, branding yourself, things of that nature, right? And in that, you are really packaging or presenting your value. So whether you be an employee or a potential employee, you're applying for a position, you're an entrepreneur, you're really you're packaging yourself in a way that presents value, and you are looking to attract that money, that exchange, by offering value.
Yeah. And it is an exchange. We talk about the exchange house, and it is an exchange. And so, one of the things that we want to do is to make sure that we give more value. If you want to get more pay, you add more perceived
Mm-hmm.
value
Mm-hmm.
than you're currently being paid for, so to speak. And
Mm-hmm.
then you can go in and negotiate or ask for more. In my business, as a coach, as in yours, Stacy, oftentimes when we invite folks to the table to talk about what we can do to help them level up,
Mm-hmm.
we offer more value than they anticipate so that they understand that they're getting a gift, a package, a bonus.
Correct. Because the value that we're offering is that ability to help them get from here, right? That place of pain or stuckness or unworthiness, whatever that challenge is, to help them get from there to that next place, right?
Yeah.
That's where the value is, right? In getting to that next place. And so you're absolutely right. And I think that all of our community, our listener community, can really do a quick list of kind of their value bases, right? Or their value items. What are they currently offering on their job or in their business or in their relationships even, right? You bring value. And how can we increase or expand that value that we're offering, and therefore, like you said, increase the amount of the exchange?
That's right. That's right.
Increase.
The mindset is
Yeah.
really what it's about. A lot of us, midlife and beyond, or even younger, have this mindset. We talked about it earlier, how you were raised, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes along the way, what you're exposed to, that says money is hard to make.
Mm-hmm.
Or, nobody's talking about the value, right? Money is hard to make, like it's being made out of thin air, or you chopping out of concrete, rather than the idea of what do you bring to the table to attract that value in exchange. And then we have the mindset, Stacy, of I'm too old to worry about money or to make
Mm.
money. Or, as you know, Stacy, Christians, people of faith, not just Christians, oftentimes say stuff like money is devil's work. The idea that there's scarcity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because even in thinking about opportunities, and I think we see this a lot as coaches, right? Where we share the value, the monetary value that we are associating with the transformation that we're going to deliver. And sometimes the first reaction might be, oh, I can't afford that, or that's too much. And oftentimes it's not only associated with what they perceive as the value of the coaching in this example, but how they embrace and really think about their money. So once you say, I can't afford that, right? Or that's too expensive, you've already limited
Mm-hmm.
the possibilities, right? And one of the challenges I know that I run into, I don't know about you, Wayne, but
Mm-hmm.
it's really coaching even to that mindset so that the client can see that the can't really, the expense, what you can't afford is to stay where you are.
Mm-hmm.
What you can't afford is to be stuck in this place where you are not happy, where you don't feel worthy, where you are dealing with shame, whatever that challenge is. That's what you can't afford.
Mm-hmm.
But when we see money, we see the dollar and then the dollar symbol and the numbers after that, immediately we have a reaction sometime from that place of scarcity or lack based on our money mindset.
Yes, Kirsten Fair. Well said, Stacy.
Mm-hmm.
I oftentimes say to folks, don't worry about the cost. Is the cost worth more than the price you pay for not making the move?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's
Exactly.
a price to pay, correct? And
Exactly.
so that is true in terms of just moving through and thinking about money and the value we put to it. One of the things that is true is, I think, when you are attaching your passion
Mm,
and your purpose to a thing, it makes it easier for you to then attract money to you, right?
absolutely. I think one of the, we highlighted a couple of those kind of common toxic or negative money mindsets. But what you're talking about is really shifting and having an empowering belief or an empowering mindset around money, that our financial success is possible, that that wealth can expand your freedom, or having money, right, can expand your freedom or your creativity. And to your point of fulfilling the passion, right, that's your creativity. And that alignment of value to your creativity, I think, is really embracing the empowering mindset in
Yes.
action.
Yes.
In
Powerful.
action.
Well said. Stacey, we didn't, it didn't fall deaf on me, so to speak, in my
Mm-hmm.
hearing and in my sight, that we're using the color green today, which is not within our brand, as we were talking about money. We talk about the psychology of money. The idea of money showing up in green comes out of the idea that green is everywhere, it's abundant, it's fertile. So money, the idea of money being a stimulant to
Mm,
growth and fertility, is an ancient and old thinking. So we're using green today. Show me the money.
absolutely. Absolutely. It is that we all know that colors do evoke emotions, they evoke certain thoughts. And so thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
Little
So
learning
as
for me.
Stacey, as we talked about passion and purpose and
Hmm.
that sort of thing, the challenge I would have today, one of them as a coach and as coaches, we are thinking that identify right now, especially as we're going through some testing times economically here,
Mm, hmm.
what are one or two areas that you find that you're passionate about, that there's purpose in your life with?
Hmm. Yeah, I think
My mic got muted. I'm sorry.
it's okay. It's okay, because I think you threw a great question out there, and it really is empowering us to think about how we can enjoy, right? People say that when you're doing something you love, it doesn't feel like work. And those passions are usually something that we love. And so if it doesn't feel like work and you enjoy doing it, it's likely that it can benefit someone. And
Yeah.
so in that benefit, how can you ensure or position it that the exchange for the value that you're bringing through your passion uh, is monetized or compensated financially?
Yeah. I kind of had moved us along, and when we looked at the first conversation we were having, Stacy, about the mindset,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that we know is true, how you talk to yourself is very important and powerful.
Yeah.
And so I would challenge folk who are listening to ask themselves, what are the messages? What's the inner voice saying about money? And how does it serve you today? And is it true? Is
Mm,
it disempowering? And if it is disempowering or not true, what can you substitute in terms of the new mantra, the new dialogue that you're having internally about money So I'm sorry that we stepped back a little bit, but I thought that was
No, I
important.
think that's fine, because what I love about it is that if what you're saying to yourself about money, about your finances, about the future of your finances is not true, the question is, what is the truth? Right? And really starting to dig in a little bit, as you embrace that declaration or that mantra, as you would say, what is true? That's what we need to be talking. You earlier referenced scripture, and for us as believers, that's what's true. And it does say that a fool and his money will part, right? And so that's true. So if you feel like you're telling yourself the story that you're being foolish with your money, tell yourself the truth and recognize that you have opportunity to shift that, right? And to combat that with, oh no, the truth is that a fool and his money will soon depart. So how can I shift myself, move myself, tell myself the truth, right? That God says he owns it all, right? So he's full of resources. And you need to be telling yourself the truth so that you are not constantly in a position where you are separating yourself from your money.
Yep. In other words, stop playing the fool and keep some money in between the banks or in your pocket. In fact, we know that money between the banks isn't necessarily the answer. It's about having it go out there and do the work, right?
Yes.
But
yes.
Stacy, do you realize, I may have shared this in another one of these episodes, that the average person who wins the lotto is broke within 3 to 5 years? Imagine that. You may not have had money all your life, and here you are, and you got you a few millions, but in 3 or 5 years, you are broke. It's true of a lot of professional players too. And part of the reason for that is we go back to the belief about money, the psychology about money, the discipline about money. You have to become that person. You have to have that mindset of a man or a woman who responsibly handles money and has a relationship, a healthy relationship with money. When you are broke, not broken, but broke, as they say, so that when the money comes your way, your abundant thinking allows you to handle it in a way that doesn't allow you to get back to stage one yesterday.
Yeah, that was so good. It took me a couple of places, and the reality is that so many of us are not really prepared, right, for a windfall of $2 million. We're just not prepared. The wisdom comes in, and we talked about wisdom in our last episode, right? That wisdom is not just about age. It is about being able to seize real knowledge and apply it in the right way. The wisdom says that I might not be prepared to manage a windfall of $3 million, but I'm very clear that my next step should be to inquire wisdom, right? To seek wise counsel, someone that is managing millions in a way that is in alignment with their values, in alignment with their spiritual beliefs, and, in alignment with financial health.
Absolutely.
So we have options. We don't have to know it all, but indeed, I'm ready for the windfall. I'm ready. And I know that there's some wise counsel out there that I can make sure that I'm ready.
Absolutely. Set yourself up for this windfall, for the success, for the abundance.
Yes.
And that's important. Stacy, there's an aspect of money. We talked about the flow, and we use the analogy of the river. water. One thing you know is, in order to attract money and make money, the writings are on the wall, all of the ancient teachings are on the wall. You have to also be able to give, to let go.
Yes, yes, yes.
Imagine this. You have a fist, right? If you have a fist, which is supposedly holding on to the money that you have already had, which is holding so tight, a person from the outside or an opportunity can't be able to get in or to you unless you open up. You have to open up and allow it to flow and give yourself a chance to receive more. And that is true, which is what is taught when people give to charity and give a part. And tithing is all about that, Stacy. About
Absolutely.
the discipline of giving, and also recognizing that from gift giving comes gift receiving.
Absolutely. And from the tithing perspective, we've already received the gift, right? And the daily gift of our daily bread. Yet we talked about currency, right? And so when we give, we'll just expand on this use of the tithe, right? That 10% that we are really giving to the church, yes, or to your worship center, but primarily giving back to God, the resource that we talked about earlier. But you as you give, it's therefore currency, right? It's moving. It doesn't stop at the building, or doesn't stop within that circle, we'll say, of the church that you give to, right? Ideally, it is then flowing. It's flowing into the community, right? Because that place of worship is serving the community, right? Whether it be the local community, the global community, feeding the homeless, offering showers to, the homeless, whatever that entity is doing. So it doesn't stop, right? You're not giving to that one location. It's currency. It's going to continue to move. Prayerfully, who you give it to is moving it correctly, right? But that's not even our job to worry about, right? And the same with the charity. When you give to a charity, right, it doesn't just stay with the charity. It's so that they can do their work, so that it can move, that currency can move out to the people it serves.
Powerful, Stacy. I like to see it also as wherever you're getting blessings. If you go to a place to eat, right, you leave a tip, even if it's free, right, and you like the service, or you pay something exchange for the value. So if you're going for spiritual food, it's sort of, you leave a tip or you pay for that. Now, people may say God doesn't need money, he's not broke, he had everything. The idea concept isn't that you are paying God to earn some interest. From it, it's the mindset, it's the discipline of recognizing these principles. And so you can sit down and argue, but anyone who has had money success will tell you that much of it has come from their willingness and ability to be kind and to give.
Yeah. At our core, often and throughout, I believe, our episodes, we talk about gratitude, the practice of gratitude, and we talk about generosity. And you're right. Those are valuable, real valuable, often tangible, sometimes intangible ways that we can really add value and continue to receive, right? That we can give and we can receive. And that gratitude and generosity really help continue the flow of the currency, right? And that it's It's an opportunity, really, to demonstrate your gratitude by giving.
Yeah. Stacy, in wrapping up, the truth of the matter is that when we see money differently, when we see money as a value that brings an income, when we see money as a new belief mindset that brings about the assets, so to speak, that money provides and so forth. When we see money less of a pressure, but more of a thing of passion, in terms of what we're doing, I think it makes life easier for us. And putting those principles together, we should see a difference in our money standing.
I could not agree with you more. This is the new rich, right? This is being rich. It is not solely based on how much money, currency we have, but it is that we are values driven, that we are led by our spiritual practice, and that we are empowered to really utilize what we have to be a blessing to others, right? This is rich. The fact that you and I get to sit here and have what we hope is meaningful, edifying conversation using technology, that's rich. That is us rich, and really us using the currency that has flowed through us to flow through others, to flow to others.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's another wrap, Stacy.
Yeah, I would just, encourage our community to, think about what you can give this week, whether it be your time, your talent, your treasure, because you want to start the cycle of generosity, right? That is you giving generously and then you receiving generously. And so think about what's your conscious giving going to be this week. And let us know what you think about the nuggets that we shared throughout this episode. We really want to know, did it resonate with you, or maybe not so much, or maybe you have a whole different thought life about money that you want to share with us. Wayne and I would love to hear it.
Yeah, you're not too old, not too lame, not too broke, not too late to get some money.
No, that's true. And it doesn't have to define you. Money does not define you, but how you think about it will indeed shape what is possible.
Yeah. Stacy, you were saying today in the green room that, hey, Wayne, we don't necessarily have to tell folks how to get in touch with us, but invite them to see the show notes. And it's all laid out right there in terms of our sites. And you can certainly DM us from wherever you're listening as well. So, Stacy, until next time, what do you say?
Thank you all for joining us here at the Midlife Revolution Unleashed, where I am Stacy. I am cheering you on, and Coach Wayne will see you at the top.
Ciao, folks.
And there you have it, folks. This week's episode of the Midlife Revolution Unleashed. Hey, we truly appreciate your spending this time in this space with us. Join us next week at the same time as we dive into relevant topics and present solutions to spark new thinking and empower your midlife journey.
And don't forget, if you enjoyed today's episode, let us know in the comments and share it with others. And of course, remember to subscribe, share, like, hit that notification bell. You are the Midlife Revolution Unleashed. I'm Coach Stacy, and I'm cheering you on.
And I'm Coach Wayne, and I'll see you at the top.